How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully, y'all are doing good. I haven't done one of these in a very, very, very long time. Um, it's a sit down with a Cuervo. I think the last one I did was I interviewed a young man, just an artist, had opened a business. And if you look at his business, his business about fishing. Oh, but first, this is a sit down con el Cuervo. A sit down in the valley with con el Cuervo. I'm doing my a self interview. So, yeah, you see this guy's dream come true. Um, Not everybody gets to have their dream come true. So everybody bitches and complains about how the economy is so bad and everything, but you still see them drinking. You still see them using their vices and everything. This kid and his business, which was the last sit down I did with somebody and interviewed him, just blew me away because he just proved to me that the some vices are good. You know, I'm not talking about weed. I'm not talking about crack. I'm not talking about, but those type of vices. You know, that's sometimes that's self medication. I'm coming from vices like, you know, addictions. You know, not necessarily all vices can be addictions, but some people do need to get help. They're wasting their money wrong. They bring children into the world that didn't ask to be born, and they leave nothing to them. That's wrong. But since everybody always worries about feeling good about themselves and not worrying about what they created or what they brought forth, you know, you even see some people with these animals that that are going through these issues with them, and they're all on here, you know, talking about love for animals and love for people and love for just humanity, and they move in the opposite way. They don't move in the way they're describing themselves as, you know, as caring people, which they don't care about themselves. How can they care about another person? They don't even care about their own kids sometimes. You know, half of these people think it's funny or think it's cool to to continue doing what they were doing since they were young. You know, sometimes you need to stop it. Sometimes you need to stop what you're doing and check, you know, make a full count of where your money's going or how you're spending your money. And I'm not talking about people with, you know, disabilities. You know, that's a whole other issue that there's this whole huge spectrum out there of it now where, well, a lot of these individuals did it to themselves and they're suffering for it. You know, they're on here complaining about the economy. They're all here complaining about all that, but they did it to themselves. Now, should you feel sorry for them? I say yes. Should you help them? I say yes. Should you educate them? I say yes. And that's part of the sit downs that I'm having. Like I had a sit down with a guitarist, a local guitarist. You just wouldn't understand him, you know, if you knew his full situation. You know, you want to talk about an enigma. Some of these people, what they're going through, is just there's no answer, you know, to why, what's going on, how, you know, and But to reverse it, anybody can reverse it if you want it hard enough. I, I've I've met so many people, man, even relatives that you know. And I don't think it's. I don't think. I think it's partially DNA, but all these mental health issues that people go through, you know, those are the people that that need help. But you educate them, and like they say, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So what I do is I try to educate these people on how to make money for themselves. And I've been doing it since I was very young. Like I said, if you've seen some of my self interviews, I explained to you how my life as a child was. My life as a child was um, basically I wanted the good stuff, and in order to get the good stuff, well, I had to become a certain individual that was always maneuvering around uh, monsters. So among moving around those monsters, trying to survive that, which was a weight on me as a kid because I also had to go through the why I don't have this, why I can't get this, why I can't have that, why can they have that and I can't. So so to me, a lot of these issues now that people are going through is just that fact that I want it, I am gonna get it, and I deserve it. And well, when I grew older, I understood that I actually did not really deserve any of that stuff, because if you're a kid that's been poor, you have the chance to educate yourself on what you need to do to change your situation. Because I know some people, that I don't have permission to talk about, but one of their brothers, I do have permission to talk about him, which he there's this place that was called the Campito in McAllen, and it was a labor camp for. It was like a place where there was all these houses, like apartments, and people lived there. There were farm workers, or they went up state to work at the farms or at the fields. I'm sorry, at the fields. Oh, farm, yeah, but whatever. So some of these people were gang members, like heavy, heavy gang members. Like they formed little tribes of their own. They formed little tribes of their own there, in their area, and they fought it out. I'm talking about. Well, this was a time before people were, blasting each other. You just had to be a crazy local motherfucker to go blast somebody. Which there was a lot of them. It was going on left and right in the area where I lived. But those were the heavy hitters. The heavy hitters were always people that you wanted to respect, and that's what I knew as a kid. But I fought against it and that affected me as an adult. Working a normal job, and having somebody to tell me what to do because these heavy hitters they don't respect weakness. They like when you stand up to them because to them it's a challenge. They're looking, you know, to prove who they are. So you had to maneuver around them with respect. You just didn't want to get killed. So part of my life as a kid was learning how to maneuver around them and try to, you know, just, show them that, I wasn't just a little punk ass kid. So So this kid that I saw with his business is just that was his vice. You know, like I'm saying, some vices are good. It's when it's an addiction that's bad. You find yourself in a situation where you're addicted to something. Well, you just have, you know, I feel bad for you because you know I've never really had an addiction. I've never really been addicted to anything. You know, maybe one thing where I saw myself really, really like, you know, what am I doing? Which is food. I've always loved food as a kid, but that's a bad addiction. When you know everything is good in moderation. You know, even the USB. Um, if you're an old school USB user, uh, when at the times when these USBs were like fucking 1 gig of memory, you know. And I remember the time. I remember the times when they were fucking megabytes. So whatever. But the point that I'm trying to get across is that everything in moderation is better. You know, that's what helps you, and that's what helps the economy. And you know, it's not fair. You know, we paying taxes and shit. It's not fair, but it's just, that's the system, and you have to, you know, maneuver around the system. You don't have to necessarily be part of the system. It's just like what I learned as a kid was, you know, maneuver around the situation, maneuver around, you know, people, but you know, do no harm, but take no shit. So back to that kid with the business, it's just wow, you know, just wow, like just the way he had it decorated and everything. And that's one thing about business is that, um, yeah, it sucks because you have to start it off with what you got, you know, and you want to make it look pretty and you want to make it all that, but in the end, it does make sense that you have to work with what you got. So that kid, this shop is like super small, and it's like he's got like these two kayaks in the front standing up there, you know, which he takes people on to go fishing. And it's just the most simplest goddamn fucking shit, man. Like the most simplest little business, you know. And he's enjoying himself. Nobody's helping him pay for his rent. Nobody's helping him do. Nobody's pushing him to do anything. You know, nobody's paying for it. Nobody's helping him. Nobody's giving him anything free. You know, this guy customizes these rods. That's what he learned to do, and he's happy. So a lot of people see the world because they're addicted to this shit, to their vices. They make, instead of moderating themselves, they're all frustrated and shit because they can't afford shit, you know? So you have to understand that you have to live within your means. I'm a fucking thrifty motherfucker. Because I learned as a kid, I didn't want to pay for shit. You know, especially if you see my videos, how I learned, to get the shit that I wanted. You know, when I learned that, I became fucking tight. And that's what a lot of these rich folks, that's why they don't have decent lives. They're rich, but they're not enjoying their life. You know, at one point, I had a bunch of money, but was I happy? I don't remember. I truly don't. I think I was, but I've been told the opposite. Where I'm like, really? So. Uh, but the point I'm trying to get across is that with now talking about rich people is that you see some rich people well, you know what? Another example. Do you remember being a kid and you'd see that person in school that was just in sports and in fucking the glee club and he was in fucking drama and that it just the guy or the girl or the individual was just blasting through school, just having a ball, having a cool time. And then you have people like me that just struggled through school. I hated it, man. Like Stand and Deliver, whatever that movie was, where that guy had his books at home and shit. He had a copy of them. That's what I did. I never carried my books. I had them at home. But that's just something that I learned how to do. I always learn how to put things at to my level where I can function in it. And so I always buy everything cheap as I can get it, and I always wait for something until I get it. But I wait, you know. Um, yeah, so yeah, that kid that you see at school, or that individual, that person, human, whatever, that they just seem like they're flying through the shit. So that goes back to my thought, on poor people, and I think 50 Cent said it one time, where there's some poor people that are fucking happy, super happy. They're enjoying it. They're enjoying, just being poor, single or married. You find these situations where these people are just fucking so happy being alone or being married, or just, and you see them floating, and you see them holding hands, and you see them kissing, and you see them just enjoying, their time. I think, yeah, it was 50 Cent that said a story kind of like that. Um, so, so, me, hello, it's me. So, so you see some rich people having a fucking blast. They're just enjoying they're just fucking enjoying their time. They're enjoying their life with all this fucking money. I don't like loud trucks. I always like my cars silent, black, and if I could fucking drive at night with all the lights off, I would. That's another thing. Another time I'll tell you that story. We used to go to the back places and drive with our lights off and shit. Man, we learned how to drive in the dark. So yeah, that's the story for another time. But whatever. So you see some of these rich people and these poor people, both having a fucking blast through life. They're happy. They don't give a fuck. That they're poor. They don't give a fuck about anybody's situation. You run into these individuals every so often. You know, you see them, the way they dress, the way they move, the way they pull out their checkbook. You know, some of these people, you see them still love to use their checkbook. My grandmother, la jefa. That's a story for another time, man. You don't know my grandmother, man. Both my grandmothers, but my father's mother. Yeah, shit. She was a beautiful lady. But yeah. So these people, you see them having real cool lives. But then you see these poor people that have these fucking crappy time getting through life, single and married. But then, and also you see these rich people that they keep complaining that we're not making money, we're fucking rich. They just have it all, but they're not having a good time. Even though they have it, it's like those stories that you see about those lottery winners where, it just ruins their fucking life. So, money's not the answer, right? Am I right or wrong? Money has never been the answer. That's not the answer to happiness. The economy is not the answer to happiness. The happiness that I realized as a young child was by visiting so many tribes. I just didn't go from here to McAllen and cross Furias and just wander around here in Texas, which, I know many tribes here in Texas too. I have a huge family, huge. There's Colleen, there's Beeville, Cuernavaca, Austin, San Antonio, Georgetown, Money's never been the answer. It's never been the answer. If you're single, which some for a while I was single for years, just didn't want to deal with shit no more. I just didn't want to deal with any humans, anything, nothing. Just tired. I never knew that I had turned into a complainer. You know, I complain about these people. They just don't. Some people just don't get it, and it just frustrates me. It frustrates me that now I never realized that I had become a hater. So at this age that I'm at, I just look back at my life and just uh, shit. Hold on. I bought a snow cone and it's melting. Snow cones. Snow cones always make me happy as a kid, especially the ones at ballparks. Oh, the ones at ballparks. Ooh. Mm. Or the best ones. Let me tell you, the best raspa is the one from Mexico. I remember being over there at the clubs when I was young, and we get everything free. So I just go walking down the street, and there was this person that made these sausages. They were so good with like a bunch of onions and just a huge bread. Like it was like almost it was I forgot what that bread's called, but yeah, it was in that. But yeah, it was great. Um, but the best raspas is that guy standing outside with that metal aquarium that looks like a fucking aquarium. And he has this big block of ice, and he has this little metal shaver, and he's like, and ice is flying everywhere and shit. And those are the best fucking raspas. See, that's right there. That's worth more than gold and diamonds and money and any monetization shit that you put on this fucking cruel system that is so cruel to these poor individuals that are suffering mentally, you know, that they can change the situations, but some aren't. Some are just too far gone. But the reality of things is that you just gotta grasp on to those little fucking moments because life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Life is like a fucking painting, man. You know, you start out with a painting, it looks all fucking ugly and shit, and you get frustrated because you can't get it to the way you want it. I'm never satisfied with the shit I do. I never boast to anybody that I'm cool, that I'm badass, that I'm. No, I'm in here online just being my fucking self. You don't like it, get the fuck off my fucking page. You know? I support everybody. I don't give a fuck what you are. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't give a fuck what you're going through. I don't care. I just care that I just care about myself. I do. It might sound selfish, but in reality, you really do need to take care of yourself first before you understand about taking care of anybody else, which is modernizing yourself on anything and everything, including food. Man, yeah, there's days that I get pissed because I can't go eat a fucking steak, you know? But I learned as a young child by getting in trouble for what I was doing. I just looked at my mom and I killed her. I killed her with what I did because she was just coming off from suffering of losing my brother, which got killed. My brother got shot in the head mistakenly by they wanted to kill a cousin of mine and they kind of looked like each other and the guy was fucking blind as shit. So he thought it was him and he shot him in the head. That's the neighborhood I lived in. So it was basically a coke deal gone wrong. a gangster, a wannabe gangster. So this wannabe gangster, you can't be a gangster, man. I don't tell anybody that I'm a gangster. I always wanted to be away from that lifestyle, man. I did, but I had to survive through it. I had to go through it. So, you know, just try to just try to understand, you know, what it is living in these fucking neighborhoods, man, that you grow up like that. You have to be fucking resilient. You have to be fucking headstrong. You can't have a heart. You can't have a heart. So I I understood that money wasn't the issue. It was this, your coco, your melon. That's what you need to take care of. That's what you need to invest in your fucking sanity. So I invested in my sanity. That's why I'm still standing where I'm at. And I'm not rich. I'm not poor. My health is fucking. It's just the lifestyle I led. A lot of the people that I hang out with, that I respect them, my loyalty still lies to them. And my street loyalty still lies to my street. So I learned that this right here, that's what you need to take care of. So I became very strong mentally, very strong. I learned how to make money at a young age. And not just from here, from Texas. I got educated in Chicago. I got educated in New York. I got educated in California. I saw these different tribes. Um, I had a very destructive uncle on my mom's side. He just never changed. He just couldn't change. He married a Indian girl. They lived on the reservation. My cousin still lives on the reservation. Never met him, but I wouldn't want nothing to have to do with a family member that basically puts you through hell. And these vices destroy families. These addictions, these vices that become addictions, destroy families. Um, so I learned that I wasn't gonna put my children through that. But again, I wasn't the perfect father or husband to this day. So I'm not coming out, here as all fucking righteous and I'm fucking cool and I know how to fucking maneuver around people and I know how to make a person a fucking millionaire, because I do know how to make a person a millionaire. And every so often I get kickbacks, or the people being taken care of, you know, because of how I showed them how to maneuver and move. Like Chicago wasn't easy, man. Let me tell you, it wasn't fucking easy to maneuver around because Chicago's basically a whole fucking jail. That's what it is. Chicago's basically just one big fucking jail that you go in and you better fucking. The first thing my aunt told me when I got there, she said, "You better be careful around here because you'll enter head first and you'll leave feet first." Understood. She told me, "I know you're experienced, but your experience from where you live to here, no. If there's 100 sicarios where you're at, there's 1,000 Um, I'm gonna say the word. There's a because it's a word. So, but it's not the word. It's the word that I used to use as a kid, nigga. So she said, "There's 1,000 niggas up here that'll fucking fill you with bullet holes and without a fucking thought." So for as many heavy hitters in the area that you live, there's 1,000 more over here. You know, so it's like when you go to in the waters, you got to be careful not to go into a shark infested area where Chicago's like that. It's just people, and you can't blame them, man. This fucking system of things. We want what we can't have. You know, and sometimes we make a decision to get it any fucking way possible, and sometimes we don't even fucking care about our own kids. And it's worse when you when you're when you're on your own, when you're single, because you don't even fucking care about yourself. You know, you're out there fucking wilding out, man. I lived the life of a fucking rock star without being a rock star. I never had to beg for anything. Maybe a ride. I was always asking for rides, or I was always fucking on taxis. I was known as being a backpack kid, latchkey kid. I always I always went where I wanted to go, on a bike, on a motorcycle, in a car. I always showed up in the weirdest areas, man. But I had fun, and that's what also kept me sane. Also, that's what kept me motivated to shutting the fuck up, knowing when to shut the fuck up, knowing when to speak, when not to speak. Because that's what happened with my mom. When she lost my brother, she just went silent, and no cooking, no nothing. And then she got hooked on some of these pills that they would give it to her so she would calm her nerves down. They were like these little purple triangles. I forgot the name, but they were very popular in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s. And some of these women were using them to lose weight, but they would get super addicted to them. Like they would end up having like what is it? Uh, Nervous breakdown with them, and they would go nuts. And so they thought they were doing something good for her, but they actually got her hooked on it, and and it was a bad age for me to go through that with her because my house was silent. It went silent. There was no holidays. There was no celebrating shit. Nothing. It was just death. It was always talk about death, and I didn't know that I took that shit with me as an adult, and I started complaining and talking about cruel shit and bad shit, and trying to buff myself up with the wrong people. So I got into fights that I shouldn't have. I got into pickles that I shouldn't have gotten to, but I always came out of it. There was a good reason for it. You know, so yeah. So basically, life is not monetizing shit and trying to show your family that you're the grand shit, which I'm not. I've never been someone to boast himself that I'm super badass or I'm the shit. Shit. No, I've lost fights. I've lost battles. I've lost myself, and I always seem to try to find a way back out of it quick. You know me. I'm not a type of person that hold a grudge, and if I do, it has to be a very, very, very bad situation. You know, because You can't go around holding grudges. That's another thing that'll bring you way the fuck down. I taught my son, one of my kids, because see, when you have sons or daughters or children, you can't treat them the same. I learned that from my wife. You can't punish them the same. You can't talk to them the same because it's just two different minds. Not, they're not gonna reciprocate the shit. No, they're not gonna reciprocate the shit. The same. One kid, you have to be super, real hard on him or her, and your other child, you have to be more understanding. And also you gotta evaluate the shit that they're going through. A bunch of these adults nowadays are so selfish that they're just thinking about their own situation. And come on, come on, come on, come on, people. Wake up. Wake the fuck up. Especially in your 50s. You wake up. Especially if you're a father that's abandoned your children, or you're a mother that left your kids. You know, you had a good reason, cool. But it's just a selfish reason, and I ain't down with that shit. You know, my life's not mine. When I was single, it was mine. But my life belongs to my children. My loyalty belongs to my children only. Some people mistaken where their loyalty lies. And even if you're married, it doesn't matter. It's your children's lives that matter, not yours and your wife's. As soon as you pop that kid out, as soon as you participated in making that child, if you can't fix yourself, cool, understood. But it's just because of a selfishness thing as a fucking addiction that you can't do for your family, or you can't take care of your own self, or do for yourself, or try to find a way out of your situation. Try to make it just a little bit better. Nobody's telling you to get off of welfare. Nobody's telling you to go and try to become a fucking millionaire. No, it's just try to be happy. Trust me, I know. Trust me, I know. I know the things that can make a human being unhappy. I've been through fucking hell and back. Like one of the stories I said in one of my sit downs. Just imagine them coming and robbing your house, and you're a kid, and they're telling you shut the fuck up and just sit there. Don't fucking move. No. I learned if you have too much, somebody's gonna want to come and take it. And so that's when you have to show how really resilient you are. Do you stand up and have to go through all this fucking court bullshit and all these fucking courts because you stood up and defended yourself? Or do you want to fucking evaluate the situation, and which I trust me, it's very hard for me to 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 practice what I preach. But I do practice a lot of what I preach. But in the end, that doesn't make a difference about how you're living your life. You know, It's just you gotta find, where your loyalty lies. Does it lie to yourself or does it lie to your children? You know, that's when you're married and have kids. But when you're single, does the loyalty lie to yourself or do you just spread yourself thin among everybody? You know, because sometimes when you have children, you also have to find, mental solace in, knowing that you already educated them to a point where you feel satisfied, you know. But also in that is how far do you take it to trying to just give your time to yourself. You got to fix yourself. If you're married to the point where you're productive enough to do what you need to do for your children, you know, especially if they live with you. And being single, it's almost the same thing. It's like you're your own kid. You're carrying yourself, and you have to move in a certain way, and you have to move to, like if you're taking care of a child. Because some of us adults are still acting like children. We don't understand that our kids are not our friends. Our kids never are friends. I've never had a beer with my son. I've never smoked a joint with my son. Let's do a fucking line of coke. I just don't. I've seen that how destructive it can get when, especially two individuals that are bien evre, real fucking just wasted, and they end up killing each other. You know, I've had family members that have killed each other. One threw a knife, and he just got him right in the heart over a fucking shower, over hot water. I had a little cousin in Chicago walk into a store, and my other cousin explains it to me that he just he turned around and he saw him, pull the gun on the guy, on the other kid. And my cousin's a cool little kid, man. It's a cool little kid, but he was just having that Limp Biscuit moment where today's not the day. And so they said they were walking to the store and they were gonna go get a Coke. And again, it's just the fucking economy. It's always been about the money. You're just frustrated. And so they were walking to the store to go get a pop. Because in Chicago it's called pop. They don't call it Coke or soda. Or that's more like Wisconsin shit. But uh, in Chicago it's called pop. So he's like, yeah, man, we're gonna go get a pop at the store. And when I turned around, before we entered, or I don't know, it was entering or it was in between entering, I guess. I don't know. The guy was exiting the store, and he says he saw him, pull his gun out, and he's like, "The fuck, what are you doing?" The guy didn't tell you anything, and well, there's colors. There's certain ways you wear your hat. You know, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. So, yeah, these fucking places, you know, full of these frustrated people with the fucking economy they're in, you know, they just, they become soulless, heartless fucking people, you know. You haven't visited those tribes and you won't understand. But, so, my cousin told me, he looked back and he was like, the fuck are you doing? And then he just heard pop. Oh, no, 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 no. My cousin said that my cousin told the guy, flip your cap, or something like that. It was something about the cap, the way the way the kid was wearing it. It was kind of like, it represents different sides Different size you put it on, it represents different shit. Even your warm ups, man. Like if you pull them up one leg, it represents something, whatever, right? So uh, he just said that. I don't know. He said he didn't hear you even speak. He just heard pop. Fucking shot him in the head. Yeah. So he went years to prison because he was a young kid. All because of fucking the lifestyle of money. So you need to take care of this first before you get the money. Like if I don't like the movie fucking Scarface. You know, I don't believe. Well, just whatever. But I just, I don't know. It's just not my movie for me. But I don't see how you glorify a guy that I don't know. But whatever. But like you said, first you get the power, then you get the money, and then you get the woman. So that's basically what it is. But if you don't take care of this, you'll end up like him, Mr. Tony Montana. See, so I don't understand why people like this guy, where he couldn't keep this shit together. The guy could have been a fucking. He could have been the guy that killed him, which wasn't a good individual, but the guy was at least mentally strong to make a decision and follow through on what what he wanted to become. So it's your decision always. And the only way you're going to make good decisions is if you take care of this. If not, you'll end up like Mr. Montana. Life is better with friends than enemies. That also helps a lot. Doesn't help when you're old. Because when you're old, it's like that movie Irishman. Half of these motherfuckers are dead. Half of these people are locked up. Half of these people are like me, where they're just too old, or they're just too fucking. They hurt too much. Like I hurt too much. I have fucking real bad uh, physical issues. But I still try, not to linger on that and not to try to make it a fucking crutch where it's like, oh, I can't do anything in life. I can't. I'm just gonna be at home sitting. Which is cool if that's what you're doing, and that will work for you. Do what works for you. Do what you know what's what mentally will flow you or make you float into a positive outcome of what you are trying to be. But it doesn't. You got to understand that these vices will only take away certain pain for a certain moment. Okay, so what I was saying, is that um, basically you need to take care of this first before anything else. Before you maneuver around any area, before you maneuver anywhere, you have to maneuver with this first. Because anybody can antagonize you. Anybody can show up one day and just make you crash everything down by introducing you to a drug, by introducing you to alcohol, by introducing you to food, by introducing you to money. You know, you have to watch out. You know, but the only way you're gonna watch out is by making it strong. And the more experiences you had out there in life and meeting different tribes and different people, different humans from different areas, and you didn't back then. Back then, you didn't really have to do that. You didn't really have to go to these areas. It's just people stopped reading books. You had Finn, you had Macbeth, you had Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare, whatever. Right? These people were writing down life experiences, and I feel sorry. You haven't read some of these college books, high school books, uh, elementary books. I feel sorry for somebody that didn't even go to a fucking, that didn't even get to, get educated on a basic course of fucking called it's a very, I forgot what it's called, but it teaches you, it talks about empathy, and it's a very basic course. But some individuals, what you don't, some of these individuals didn't graduate, so they didn't go through that system of reading, those type of books, or they did go through graduation, they did graduate from school, but they ended up going to college and didn't further educate themselves. So a lot of these situations, mental situations, that a lot of these people are in, is because they don't know how to maneuver themselves out of it. You know, they haven't read these stories and about these, mentalities and different types of, human beings out there. And when you read these books like like Karl Marx and Sun Tzu, The Art of War and all that, so you just know the people that are in your area, and you know how only to deal with that people in the area. And you see this shit going on right now with, people with their phones. They're just educating themselves on all this stupid crap shit. Yeah, it's cool to have fun on here, and it's cool to laugh, and it's cool to do all that. But sometimes you really need to back yourself up, and step into this. Go outside, and be in, in reality, where, you know, like I said in some of my videos, some of these men from back then, they just got used to the government giving them government checks. And then all of a sudden you see them not working anymore and just drinking every day and just fucking be out there sitting, like I said in one of my old videos, you could see they weren't bad people. They were cool. Some of these motherfuckers are super funny, man. They would make your day with a joke. But you would go out there and you would take a picture and they were standing in the same spot, kind of like the king of the hill, like that. So, and then their families you would see their families struggling, you know, to get to do, the wife was struggling, the kids were struggling, but he thought that that was it, that they'd go to work, get out of work, and go stand at the park instead of trying to figure a way on how, to get the fuck out of their situation, you know. So they found themselves stuck, you know. And I just didn't want to live that way. So I knew there was going to be ratchet times. In Spanish they say rachas, momentos de rachas or something like that. But, I understood that I had experienced it, and I knew there was a light at the end. So a month from now or a fucking year from now, the situation, if I maneuvered this and I manipulated or maneuvered the shit the right way, I would get the fuck out of that situation. Sometimes it would take a whole year, you know. Like when I became a bartender, they didn't want to hire me at the beginning, and then I proved myself to the owner, and and I worked my way up. I went from busboy to fucking waiter to fucking. I worked at one of the best restaurants for steaks, Santa Fe Steakhouse. I went through being a waiter there. I did, at the club. I was a busboy, a waiter, fucking, and then I fucking bar back, and then finally I got to work as a bartender, which I fucking sucked. I tried my hardest. I was good, and I got my own bar. But it's not your own bar. You just run it. That's what they call it. So the owner of a bowling alley gave me, yeah, want a job here? And they fuck yeah. So I just wanted to experience that, and I did. So, but this right here is what helped me, become, you know, every time I wanted to become something, I did it. I always tried. I failed. I get back up, like that song says. Just get back up and shake it off. Shake it off, shake it off. but, but well, yeah, money's not the answer. Vices definitely are not the answer. You're just throwing yourself more into a false solution or a false help. And again, if it works for you, keep doing it, man. I don't want nobody to fucking get off their fucking medication. You know, medication can be marijuana, it can be cocaine, it can be LSD, it can be fucking heroin, it can be fucking whatever. You know, I don't want nobody having to quit what they're doing just because of what I'm saying. You know, this is me. This is me interviewing myself and telling you my thoughts. But you don't have to eat it. You don't have to digest it. Hell, you can even comment that I'm wrong. You know, um, I definitely don't think that I'm right. You know, who's wrong? Even in religion, who's wrong in religion? Um, it's just what makes you feel good here. You know, that's the hardest thing to understand. Is that this right here is what you need to work, not your fucking muscles. Now, you do have to keep yourself healthy, but if you can't keep this healthy, you know, nothing, you know, it's like a car engine. It's not gonna work right without the battery. It's not gonna work right without a fucking piston. It's not gonna work right if your brakes are out, if your brake pads are loose. It's not gonna work right if one of the lines. Oh, nowadays, so many fucking sensors in these cars. So now, that's the same way with the body, man. The mind is the fucking sensors. The most important, the most expensive shit is the mind. You know, because you can have a fucking, you can be, or just check out Christopher Reeve. Just a fucking Adonis motherfucker, man. Just a guy that just, you know, shit, your picture Superman. The fuck else? You don't have to question anything on how cool or how badass you are or how, you know, beautiful you are. It's just, look at him. Just from one day to the next. Just couldn't move. Fucking paralyzed from the neck down. And and if you saw him the way he moved, going through that situation, boom. Again, like I was saying, there's some rich people that are super fucking happy. There's some poor people that are super happy, and then you have the opposite. And the same thing is with Christopher Reeves. You have these actors that are fucking, they have the world in their hand, and they're super fucking unhappy. But because this is not right, you have to make this right first. Because if not, you'll just find yourself falling, complaining about the wrong shit. You know, so take care of yourselves, take care of your kids, whatever situation you're at. You know, evaluate it. And if, I mean, shit, you're happy where you're at. Fine, nobody's telling you to move. Nobody's telling you to move different. It's just maybe I can reach those people that do want to change or do want to better their situation. And it's just you just gotta like that kid with the fish shop, the bait shop, and he just made sure that that was his happiness, and that's his happiness, and he decided that that's what's gonna make him happy. And I'm not kidding, man. Like I hate some. I don't know. I'm not gonna go through it, but whatever. There's just some. Sometimes some people stop right in front of my house, and they look, and they sit there looking at me. Super weird, man. I had a friend one time, like this, he like for no reason, man. The guy was like a nerd, you know, like super nerd. Never did harm to nobody. Just a guy on Facebook. It's never challenged anything. The guy was a game player and everything. And he said one time, one day he went because he lived on a farm, and he said that he went and oh, and another thing, they could, I don't know. Well, maybe this is what it was. He had a Spanish sounding name. He wasn't Mexican, except he had dark hair, but he didn't look not one. Have you all seen the show about a kid that created crack? Okay, the police officer. That's the way the guy looked. Not just the only way you can maybe say he was Mexican was because of dark hair, but that was it. It's just a tall white boy. And so, long story short, he. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Well, I think that's it. That's all I got to say for this self interview. Saturday night, and I'm exhausted. Super fucking exhausted, man. Super exhausted. Mentally, physically, yeah. Just super fucking exhausted. But if it wasn't for me making this strong, you know, you end up killing yourself. I've had people that have gone through similar situations that just they kill themselves. They're like, you know what, I'm out. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. It's too much. It's not gonna change. But no, there's always a way to change shit. There's always, but you have to make this strong. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Like I said, I didn't know, that I was acting in a certain way. I didn't know, but that's another saying that I can't remember right now. It's, stupidity is not an answer. I don't know. I forgot what how it goes. But there's a saying out there that it doesn't. It, just because you're stupid or you don't understand the situation doesn't mean that people have to feel sorry for you. That's how that saying goes. But you just can't. You know, I don't know. You just can't be. Sometimes you just can't stay silent. Sometimes you do gotta make your voice. You know, um, reverberate. I think that's the word. Like a lion when he roars. Like it just blows out. It blows out. Sometimes you do need to stand up and talk and you know tell people what's on your mind. Because then, there's a saying in Spanish, que no habla ni Dios lo oye. So that translates to even, there's some people that don't speak out. Not even God hears them. So don't denounce anything. I've made that mistake of not understanding an individuals or individual of what's bringing them solace. Maybe it's not solace for you, but at least it's solace for them. So I don't know. You got to be open minded to different situations. I'm just trying to say that some situations can be improved, and it can only be improved if you have this strong. And I understand you. I understand people or humans that are just going through some situations that there is no turning back from. You just can't turn back from it. It is what it is. It's just, and money's not the answer. If you need it for a situation that you need to get yourself out of, especially, who's going to take care of you when you're old? You're going to put that burden on your children, or are you going to have, because, man, when I left school, or I got kicked out. Like it's in one of my stories, so I understood, you know, that everything you go through when you're young, even as an adult, and you think you know everything, well, you don't. You don't. See, and when I left school, my dad told me, "You're gonna do something. You're not gonna stay at home. Go with your sister." So my sister was taking a course for nursing assistant. Uh, I lied my age. I was 15. I told them I was 16, and they let me in. And I passed the test. Super cool. Everything real fast. Everything whatever. I started working and that shit. And That's one. If you haven't visited that tribe and you never had a grandfather or a grandmother inside of a nursing home, that's the some of you people need to get ready for that. That's when life gets really fucking difficult. That's when this fucking kicks in, because when you're old, it's like when you get sent off to jail. You know, you gotta fucking be mentally strong. You're not gonna go through the same shit that you go through prison, but or whatever. You know, you got to county, whatever. But a nursing home is where a lot of these people end up. And take care of this before you get there, because some of you will not be able to afford to take care of yourselves when you're old. And if you haven't prepared yourself, you're gonna be that cricket that thought he was super cool and wanted to look good at that time instead of saving his fucking his food. You know, some of you aren't getting it. You know, some of you are your lives are gonna get really fucking hard, really hard. If you're not ready for your old age, you're gonna end up in these nursing homes getting treated like shit. You know, I had patience with these people. I sat down with these people. I talked to them about stories, and we saw them die, and we saw them go through death. And if you don't have no knowledge of that shit, get ready. Especially if you're in your 50s, get ready, because you never know when that vein's gonna pop in the back of your head. Embolia. You never know when you're gonna have a fall, break your fucking hip. Like some of these old people that they break their hips and they end up at the fucking nursing home because they can do nothing for themselves because there's nobody there. Either because they never had children because they were single, or because they just were assholes to their family. And that's when you got to fucking be resilient. I don't give a fuck if you're a gangster. I don't give a fuck if you're fucking el más chingón donde sea. It's the nursing home. Your family, your kids. Understand that your kids are also going to end up there. So the harder they struggle through life, the worse it's going to be when they end up being old and decrepit and there's nobody there to take care of them. So life is meant for you to be with somebody else. It's not meant for you to be single. But if that's the way you love it, cool. But your ending's not good if you're not prepared for it. It might be cool being single, but if you're not saving your money for when you're old, and you're not saving your money when you're gonna end up in a fucking nursing home, when you don't have nobody to take care of you, and nobody's gonna fucking have the patience to take care of you. Some of these people that we would get in the nursing home were being beaten by their own family, and that's why they had to be put in the nursing home. Just they weren't taking care of them. You know, there was this situation where there was this guy that had like a bowling ball hole missing from both of his butt cheeks, where his wife wouldn't uh, change him like positions, because you have to change these people positions or they'll still get decubituses. I almost lost my leg to two decubituses. One I had on my ankle, and one and like three in the back of my leg. So they told me we might have to cut your leg off if the infection gets to your bone. So that's another situation you guys aren't thinking about. Being, humans, not picking on anybody, not race, color, whatever the fuck. We're all gonna end up in the same place. Every fucking country, every fucking state, every fucking city, every place you go, there's a fucking nursing home. And if you're not prepared and you're not saving your money and you think you're fucking Joe Cool and you're the bitch and you're fucking Barbie, no, you need to be saving your money because you're gonna get old. And some of your kids are not gonna, and that's not a weight you want to put on your kids. Imagine your kids being sick as well because they're gonna get old, and then they're having to fucking deal with you. So the most important thing is how you get to. Don't fear death, but it's how you get to it. Are you gonna be a burden on everybody, on the taxpayers, or are you gonna be a fucking person that modernized your shit and saved your money? And some like these winter Texans that come here in the valley, we have a grand example of people that just learn how to take care of themselves when they're old. These winter Texans showed us the example by coming down here every fucking year. They were having a blast. You know, they were they were living. They were going to Mexico and buying shit and coming back, and they would take care of their money. They would go to Mexico, buy their fucking pills, prescriptions, and just fucking Americans trying to take care of themselves. So, like I said, there are people that are fucking happy being middle class, being poor, or being rich. But then you have your people that are just assholes and dicks and don't know how to fucking moderate their shit. And they're unhappy being rich and they're unhappy being middle class and they're unhappy being poor. You know? I'm not down with that. I mind my own business. I don't give a fuck what my neighbor's doing. I don't give a fuck what my other neighbor's doing. I don't give a fuck what my front neighbor's doing. I mind my own shit. I sit here every fucking day and I mind my own shit. I don't worry. I don't got time. My physical, mental being, my physical body. I don't give a fuck. I don't have time to deal with none of these fucking assholes. I don't. I don't give a fuck if they talk to me. I don't give a fuck if I talk to them. I don't. I have so much shit happening in my life because I'm getting old. And so many people don't understand that you need to put your fucking vices down, especially if they're addictions. You have to find a solution to make money. This economy we're on, it's not a single person economy unless you're educated. This economy we're on is a fucking double fucking. You have to be with somebody. You have to. Either you move in with somebody as friends, either you marry somebody. But the economy we're in right now is for two people, not for one. If you're middle class and you didn't educate yourself. If you got an education, then you have the choice to be single and you have the choice to be married. But some of you have to understand that why the fuck are you getting married? You can't afford to have children. And then you have children and then you bitch in front of them because you don't have money. And then they have to see you do all this stupid shit to get money. And don't you think that they don't judge you and that they don't understand you and that they don't go through like, fuck man, that's my dad or that's my mom? You don't think they get embarrassed? They do. But since we're so fucked up in our heads that we're so, oh, I have anxiety, or I want to take care of myself, or I want to do this for myself, that you don't worry about what your children think about you. And that sucks. And that's why you find yourself, some of you find yourselves in the situations where your fucking family's all broken, or you're doing shit behind their back, or you're doing, and that's not the way to work. To understand is that if you have children, your life is not yours anymore. Drink, smoke, have vices, but don't let them become addictions in front of your kids. If not, you'll find yourself bitching on fucking online and in life that, oh, poor me, poor me, poor me. But when poor you can change your situation and make it better for yourself and your children, or if you're single, for your own self. So keep trying to go forward. Stop being an asshole. Stop being a dick. Mind your own fucking business. Shut the fuck up. Don't fucking make your voice loud to say something that you want somebody else to hear just because you feel it's necessary. And be careful because you'll find some motherfuckers that'll fucking fuck you up. You know? Remember, remember, if you can walk this shit that you talk, especially when you talk to your children. Don't break your promises to your kids because that's the last thing you want. Anybody, your kids, your wife, anybody losing faith or losing, you know, hope in you because all you talk is shit. You don't do what you say you do. You don't move the way you say you move. You're just a fucking joke. And people see you that you're a joke. If you move like a fucking joke. Your children see you that you're a fucking joke. Your friends see you that you're a fucking joke. And the people that do harm is the people that keep fucking not telling you that you're acting like a fucking joke. Or your children are too scared of you to tell you, Dad, you're a fucking joke. Mom, you're a fucking joke. or you don't understand why you're going through these fucking mental issues, or your children are going through these fucking mental issues, is because you can't grow the fuck up. You still want to continue acting like a fucking kid in front of your children, in front of your own self, in front of the fucking mirror. You gotta stop that shit. Grow up. Grow the fuck up. Learn how to fucking moderize yourself. Learn how to fucking say no. So that's it. That's all I gotta say for this self interview. And like I said, the last interview I did was that kid that had that shop, and what a beautiful fucking individual, man. So if you think life is not good and you think life cannot get better, go look at that video of that kid that opened that shop. He's a kid. He's a young man that just fucking found his niche. And I'm not saying everybody can find it. Some of us are too fucking broken to do anything, to change even for our own fucking kids. And I'm not judging you, but I'm just saying that you can change if you want to. But that's up to you, my gente. La gente del Valle 956, a los guachamos. Pórtase bien.